Good morning and welcome to our first Zoom meeting, our own Zoom meeting. We can skip announcements, but I'm going to ask you that you keep your audio on Zoom off, although I think we've turned them all off, so we don't have an overload of sounds. But do leave your video on if you're willing, because that will let me see you across the top of the screen and you'll be able to see everybody else. Bill's going to play our chime for us, and then we can kind of begin entering our worship space. We can begin, as we always do, with our chalice lighting. I have a small candle here, and if you have a chalice or a candle and you'd like to get it out and light it, you certainly may do that as we share our chalice words. We gather this hour as people of faith, with joys and sorrows, gifts and needs. We light this beacon of hope, sign of our quest for truth and meaning, in celebration of the life we share together. I guess you've all heard the words, you can't teach old dogs new tricks. While it is clear that I am not a dog, it is plain from this video that I am not young, I am old. So by saying that you can't teach an old dog new tricks, I guess I shouldn't be trying to learn new things now. Unfortunately, that seems to not be the case at all. I'm here in a Zoom session doing a service from my home. I've learned that while I love to go out and see people, I can share my days online. And I can do FaceTime. And now with more people, I can do Zoom. Of course, if I look at the screen, I'm talking to me because the biggest picture was supposed to be me on the screen, but it's not. It seems to be on my screen, the sanctuary. And sometimes I feel a little off talking to myself because I'm the only one really here. So if sometimes I don't look at the screen, you may wonder why I'm staring into space. I do have some Zoom learning to do still, maybe a lot. Other things that I've learned, I can fill the hours of my days in ways that I did not know I could. I've discovered new fiction authors that I have not read before. I've been reading more nonfiction than I have in a long time in areas that I have not explored before. I'm watching videos with exercise gurus. Now that's a really new for me. And I'm following along as best I can. And most of all, I've learned that 20 seconds of hand washing seems like a long time, a very long time. Well, if you're new to Zoom or to a Zoom church service, I'm glad you're joining us on this online group. And I know that you will know that we are all new at our own Zoom service. So now we're going to have our opening hymn, which means we're going back to Bill. Laura's right, Zoom is not so easy. We're all new at this and we're trying to find out what we need to do. Now's the time to share our joys and concerns. I invite you to use the chat box. If it's on your screen at the bottom of the screen, or maybe it's on your screen at the side. And if it is, please use your chat box and share with anybody if you'd like to. Otherwise, you'll just be adding a stone to signify a joy and concern. And we're going to go back to Bill, who's going to add some stones for us. And Bill will play some music as comments are added. So Eileen will take us back to Bill for adding stones for our joys and concerns in the chat box. We're now going to go back to Eileen so that she can do collection.
Now is the time in our service where we traditionally have an offering. And today, our service partner this month, as a new Sunday in the month, is Unirondack, Camp Unirondack. And so I'm going to put up a slide that shows us different ways we can give this morning if you're able to give in just a moment. So if you're able to give this morning to our offering, you can do that on our website or by mailing a check and noting that it's for this morning's offering, and we'll share a quarter of that with our service partner, Unirondack, for the month. But I also want to let you know that if you're facing some hard times because of job loss right now, because your retirement savings took a huge hit in the market for whatever reason, that the Minister's Discretionary Fund is also there for you. So this is both an ask and an offer. If you have enough and maybe even more than you need, then please give generously this morning. And if you don't have enough for what you need, please let me know privately and we can work out a way to help you. So this morning's offering is a little different in that we are both asking and offering. If you have a whole lot extra, more than what you need, then maybe you might think about giving to the Minister's Discretionary Fund to help those others in our congregation who are struggling right now. So wherever you are, we thank you for your generosity today.
Now it's time for us to join in a centering and then a few minutes of shared silence. Prepare yourself any way you feel comfortable for these moments of reflection. I'm going to use the words of Laura Horton Ludwig from the resources provided by the UUA. Her reading is called What We Do Matters. Spirit of life and love, we are here because we believe that what we do matters. We are here because we believe how we live our lives matters. That with every act of kindness or meanness, courage or fear, love or hate, we are weaving the fabric of the universe that holds us all. We are here because we need encouragement, because we need strength, because so often we get distracted. We get in a rush, we don't think, we choose the easy way, when the harder path is what our spirits truly long for. We are here because none of us are perfect, but together we inspire one another. We inspire one another to try again, to take another step. We are here because we have felt the stirrings of love and grace in our hearts and our hands. And we crave more of that for ourselves, and not only for ourselves, but for everyone. We are here because of how we live matters. Blessed be. We can take a couple of seconds of silence just to think on all that matters to us. Liberation is our topic for April. We guess we would all like to be liberated right now. We will be sometime. Merriam-Webster defines liberation as the act of liberating or the state of being liberated. Now, doesn't this all make us all remember how in elementary school we had to write the definition of words for spelling or for language arts? And we really hated when Webster did this, defining a word by giving the root word, just putting another ending on it. Then we had to look up the root word, liberate, to get the definition. Aren't we lucky? Because as adults, we don't have to do that anymore, because we already know that liberate means to set free. The big question for me today is, when will we be free? So when will we be free? Never, says the pessimist. Today, says the optimist. Well, says those who stand in between, maybe in a while. I guess it depends on your definition of freedom. And it depends on how hard you want to work to get what you want. Of course, it also depends on just who wants to prevent you from becoming liberated. Some people have a very difficult time capturing their freedom. No matter how hard they try, those who want to prevent them from being liberated are constantly pushing against those efforts. Think back in our country's history. Think back before the Civil War. Some slaves sought liberation. They sought liberation from a life of continuous injustice and punishments, from abysmal living conditions, and from the dehumanization of relationships caused by when people couldn't marry, when children were bred to be sold, when families were split up because some were sold down the river. Slaves could only try for liberation by escape, and escaped slaves were hunted down by owners. Laws were passed to help the owners capture those attempted escapes, and punishments were severe for those who were captured. Think about the Jewish people who were forced into concentration camps under Hitler's rule. They might have tried very hard to blend in or hide from the troops, but their efforts were most often defeated by those who wanted them to be in prison. And concentration camps were closely guarded, and guards did many horrible things to dehumanize their prisoners, to assure that they would remain imprisoned or dead. Think about more recent times. Think of those of us who are trying to escape poverty, or those seeking asylum in our country to escape violence in their own country, or those who are harassed or killed for having different gender orientations. Strong groups, government actions, and even individuals acting alone but supported by others seek to keep those that they see as different from reaching their goals of freedom from poverty, violence, or discrimination based on gender choices. But what about those of us who are not represented in these historic or current day groups? Do we have any need for liberation? I say, yes, we do. We need to work on liberating ourselves from feeling isolated from others, from letting our jobs take over our lives when it is not financially necessary for the job to do so, from feeling we have no right to feel happy, and from having to conform to the expectations of others about how we live our lives. And we need freedom from fear. I know fear may be a real part of our day-to-day lives right now. The pandemic, the uncertainties that it's caused by the virus, has all of us being careful about what we do. We may wash our hands more frequently. We may be reluctant to travel out of our immediate area. We may engage in physical distancing. And while I don't know about you, I sometimes feel stressed and a little anxious. I hate to read reports that talk about the fact that older people are much more susceptible to dying from the disease than younger people. I'm not a younger person anymore. I really got stressed when I read news articles about a governor who feels financial stability is more important than the lives of our senior citizens. For once, I guess I was happy to live in New York with a governor who supported the value of protecting life over other economic concerns. So what can I do to liberate myself from my fears? I could do the things that tend to lower my stress level. I can get outside and breathe some fresh air when it's not raining. I can look at my daffodils that are sprouting up, and a couple of them actually have yellow flowers. I can pull a few early weeds in my gardens. I can do regular exercise. I can get a good night's sleep. I can read a good book. I can stop reading news reports when I feel myself getting more anxious about doing so. There are specific steps that we can take to help lower our level of fear. One step that we can all take is to recognize that what we fear is probably real, most likely normal, and probably something many others feel. We do need to acknowledge the elephant in the room. And the next thing we can do is we need to gather information. It is not positive to avoid knowing whatever we can about that which we fear, even when sometimes getting good information is nearly impossible. After fear has been named and the information gathered, we need to let ourselves move out of our left brains and be less of a part of that brain that deals with analytical linear thinking. We actually need to feel the fear. In feeling our fear, we are facing it rather than turning away from it. Last, we need to share our fears, and gather those who strengthen us with us, so that together we can work through our fears and find our personal strength. I think of these steps as liberation through naming, learning, feeling, and sharing. Liberation is clearly needed for the oppressed, but we need to think about our own personal liberation as well. Liberation from expectations, liberation from fears, liberation from those who do not want us to be who we are. I think that some words from a sermon by the UU minister, Eric Wilston, last year, told us why it is important for us to do so. So I want to close with his words. He says, one of the things that it means to say we Unitarian Universalists are a people of liberation is that we Unitarian Universalists keep doing what we've been doing and keep trying to do to create a community where whoever you are, whomever you love, and however you express your identity, you are welcome and have a place. We don't always live up to that vision, but we do try. He goes on to say, it means that we are compelled by our faith, by our identity as Unitarian Universalists, as a people of liberation, to create communities in which it is safe to come out into the freedom to be who we are, liberated from the images to which others would have us conform. He says that brings us to a quote by Marianne Wilkinson, who says, at the end, as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people passion to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fears, our presence automatically liberates others. Liberating ourselves, liberating others. It's one of the things being a people of liberation means. And it's one of the things that happens here in this beloved community. Blessed be.
It is so good to see everybody's faces this morning, to feel like we're together in a way. So as we move to close our service, I invite you to just close your eyes for a minute, taking in all the lovely faces you've seen this morning and all the faces of everyone in our congregation who is here and not here and who may watch this video later and will be with us in that way. Imagine those faces right in your mind's eye, and imagine reaching out to hold their hands like we do at any given Sunday that we're together. like we'll do when we're together again, when it's safe to do again. And take a breath there in that moment. Now, as I extinguish my little chalice, and maybe you extinguish yours at home, together we can say our chalice extinguishing words. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. Those we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Amen.